Associate Dean and Chair Dr. Gordon, faculty, parents, friends, and most importantly, the graduates of the Division of Biokinesiology and Physical Therapy, good afternoon. It is a real honor for me to be speaking here today. 42 years ago, I was in your seats as a graduate of the Undergraduate School of Business long before it was called the Marshall School of Business. And to be honest, I don't recall who our commencement speaker was. I do know it was not Will Ferrell, and I'm sure you're disappointed I'm not Will Ferrell either. Perhaps it was due to being a less mature 21-year-old, reminiscing with my friends and teammates, and sad that we would be leaving USC. I do know that my girlfriend Carrie, who then became my wife, was sitting in the audience, and she is here again today. So the challenge that has been bestowed upon me is how to make the next hour or so worth your while. Just kidding, more like 10 minutes. I intend to do this by sharing some of the most valuable advice that I have learned throughout my career and condense this into 3 short stories. Each story has a theme: perseverance, work ethic, and empathy. These are 3 attributes that I believe are valuable in life, irrespective of your field of endeavor. My first story is when I first came to USC. As a competitive high school swimmer, it was my desire to swim at a D1 team collegiately. Back in the 70s, USC was one of the preeminent powers in swimming, boasting Olympians and All-Americans. I was not at that level, but Coach Dalen, who was a 9-time NC2A champion, said, "There are a couple walk-on swimmers that do make it onto our team." And he told me if I work hard and I make practices, there may be a spot for me on the team. However, I broke my leg in a very bad car accident a month before graduating high school, had several pins put in, and the orthopedic surgeon said, "It's unlikely you'll ever compete again." When I got to SC, swim practice had begun, and Coach Dalen's rules hadn't changed. You had to make all the practices. So I got a fiberglass cast, and I got a pull buoy which elevates your legs in the water, and I made the practices. I had a lot of encouragement from my teammates and the coaches, and this went on for a couple of months. Then the coach said, "Yes, you showed the work, we're going to let you come on to the team." This hard work went on 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, 50 weeks a year. And despite all that hard work, I never scored a point for USC at NC2As. But at the end of my junior year, they elected me as team captain, which is something I would never have imagined. The journey was not easy by any means, but through a strong work ethic and perseverance, I gave myself a chance to succeed. Note that I said a chance to succeed. Working hard does not guarantee success, but I venture to say, without perseverance and without the work ethic, the chances of success are unlikely. My second story has to do when I personally began to interact with physical therapists, which led to my great respect for your field of study. Shortly after returning to the Philippines in the mid-'80s and joining our family business, one of my first projects was to acquire a franchise in the professional basketball league in the Philippines, the second oldest professional league globally. As a 23-year-old, I didn't have any experience running a pro basketball team, letting alone starting one from scratch. As an expansion franchise, we could only choose the players that were unprotected by the other teams. Needless to say, we didn't have a lot of talent to start with, and I figured we needed hardworking players, a good coach, and a lot of passion. We've all heard the quote, "Hard work beats talent when talent starts working hard." And that's exactly what we did. We out-hustled and we outworked our opponents, and with a little bit of luck, we won our first championship after 5 years. Because we lacked talent and depth, it was vital that the players we had stayed healthy on and off the court. We had a couple of physical therapists who worked diligently and tirelessly to keep our players in excellent condition, functioning at peak performance, and off the injured reserve list. More often than not, our therapists had our players back playing much faster than players on other teams with similar injuries. I spoke to our head trainer, Gus Vargas, a few months ago when I knew I was going to be giving this speech, and to get his perspective on what he felt made us successful from the physical therapy point of view. And this helped me appreciate the how and the why even better. In essence, our physical therapists and trainers went beyond the call of duty because they felt they were an integral part of the team. They were not scoring, they were not rebounding, and they were not making assists, but their hard work made it possible for our players to do so. I have a hire whom you trust and trust whom you hire mindset, and I empowered them to do the work they believe necessary to prepare the team in the preseason, stay healthy through the regular season, and through the playoffs. They took it upon themselves to do more than what was required and therefore earn the trust of the players. This in turn encouraged the players to the extra work and extra physical therapy that was needed to recover from injuries or surgeries in the quickest possible manner. I know for a fact that our therapists would work well beyond normal hours to get the players ready, but never at the expense of compromising a player's health or their career. In fact, Gus reminded me that we never pushed our players to be activated sooner, and that developed a whole nother level of trust in our organization. We have a word in Filipino called malasakit. There is no literal translation from English, but the closest is empathy and genuine concern. It's a form of proactive help that involves understanding and sharing of feelings of others, particularly when they are suffering. It also includes the concept of stewardship, where individuals are responsible for caring for others as if they were your own. This trait of malasakit was pervasive throughout our franchise, and I believe helped us win 14 championships over 35 years. And our two main physical therapists were with us for this entire journey. Empathy can and always will be a critical success characteristic. My last story has to do with empathy and understanding. Not dissimilar from my previous story, but in its own different way. You may have heard from the Swim with Mike Foundation, which provides scholarships and community to physically challenged student athletes. Swim with Mike started here at USC in 1981, when All-American swimmer Mike Nyholt, who incidentally was your commencement speaker a few years ago, was tragically injured in a motorcycle accident that left him paralyzed from the waist down. His good friend and All-American teammate, Ron Orr, staged an event called Swim for Mike to raise money to purchase a van so Mike could be mobile again. They raised more money than they needed, and so Mike and Ron decided they should offer the scholarship to other physically challenged student athletes. 43 years later, Swim with Mike has raised over $30 million and provided over 300 scholarships to 156 universities nationwide. Having served on the board of Swim with Mike, I've come to know several of our scholars, and I asked them more about the importance of physical therapists, which, as you can imagine, are much more critical for them than for a patient who may rely on their therapist for 3 to 6 months. Currently, we have 2 Swim with Mike scholars here at USC, Miles Moeller, who is graduating this week, and Rachel Morris, who is here with her mother, Jody. To understand how vital physical therapists are to patients that are confined to a wheelchair, it's important to understand their perspective, as opposed to the professional athlete who has the no pain, no gain mindset, which is just not an appropriate approach for patients who have the challenge of being a wheelchair user. Managing goals, expectations, and constraints are a key requisite in having a successful and building a successful relationship between therapist and patient. In a conversation I had with Miles, he mentioned, "I know reaching for the top shelf is probably not possible, but what progress can be made to reach something on the second or third highest shelf? And what are the steps needed to get me there?" Seems like a normal request, but that wasn't always the case for Miles. As in the case of Rachel, she shared with me that no two individuals with the same illness or condition present in the same manner. Each person has a unique spectrum of abilities, and thus it is crucial for physical therapists to understand and embrace the individuality of each patient and modify their treatment plan accordingly. Taking the time to appreciate the nuances of each patient can be vital in the progress and the outcomes of their work. Rachel also mentioned to me, it's not just about regaining basic movement and strength, but understanding how to move in her new body. Shifting focus from merely contracting muscles to ensuring she was engaging and recruiting her muscles the right way, making sure she was breathing properly to engage her core muscles to support the tasks she needs to perform in her research lab. Work that requires using both arms while having the necessary core strength to hold herself upright. This may sound basic to many, but if you are not a wheelchair user, this could easily be taken for granted. As graduates today, you will apply the textbook learnings and your in-field experiences you have learned and encountered thus far to your patients and clients. I encourage you to keep an open mind and remember, no two patients are the same. To be successful in your craft, persevere and encourage those you work with. They too will trust in you. Even if you do not remember the word malasakit, remember to be empathetic and genuinely concerned with the individuals you work with. Your hard work will pay off with the enrichment of helping people recover and improve their physical and mental well-being. As I have said several times in the past, people are measured by what they accomplish, but they are defined by what they attempt. People are measured by what they accomplish, but they are defined by what they attempt. How will you be defined? I wish you all the best in this next chapter of your life. You are graduating from one of the most prestigious universities in the world and have an alumni network second to none, known as the Trojan family. Thank you, congratulations, and fight on.